You spent your entire life working, cutting back, and socking away every dollar you could so that one day you'd be free from financial worry. But what if I told you that those same savings you thought would protect you in retirement could actually accelerate the day you need your kids to bail you out? It sounds impossible. You did everything right, yet there are hidden drains on your nest egg that most retirees never see coming. Imagine watching six-figure care bills consume your cushion, then realizing Medicare won't cover half of what you need. Picture inflation quietly shrinking your spending power until your budget has holes you didn't even know were forming. Think about being forced to pull money out of your IRA, only to see Medicare premiums jump and your Social Security check get taxed, all because of rules you never heard about. And then, just when you think you've planned for market swings, a sudden downturn hits in year one of retirement, forcing you to sell investments at rock-bottom prices, locking in losses that your portfolio may never recover from. These aren't remote what-ifs. They're real obstacles that can drain your savings faster than most people realize, leaving you in a position you never intended, relying on your children for rent, groceries, or medical costs long before you planned. In this video, we're revealing 5 of those stealth money traps, each one backed by research and countless stories from retirees who found themselves scrambling for help. You'll learn why nursing home costs skyrocket, how gaps in Medicare coverage can strip thousands from your account every year, and why simple tax rules and required distributions can trigger a cascade of financial pain. We'll show you how inflation and sequence of returns risk can stealthily hollow out your portfolio, and what you can do today to plug these leaks before it's too late. Stay with us, because the insights in this video could mean the difference between living independently and moving back in with the kids. One of the most devastating shocks retirees face is discovering just how quickly long-term care costs can obliterate even the most carefully built nest egg. You might assume that Medicare or a basic supplemental policy will pick up the tab, but the reality is far harsher. A single year in a private nursing home can cost well over $100,000. And that's before you add in the rising expense of in-home aides, adult day programs, or memory care units. For many, a 3-year stay in a facility can wipe out an entire lifetime of savings in the blink of an eye. The frightening part is how unprepared most people are. You hear about monthly premiums for care insurance or read a brochure that touts peace of mind, but few truly grasp the magnitude of what it covers and, crucially, what it doesn't. Even with a Medicare Advantage plan or supplemental Medigap coverage, you could be left shouldering tens of thousands in out-of-pocket fees for room, board, and specialized services. And if you're still living in your own home, the cost of hiring skilled caregivers to help with daily tasks like bathing, dressing, cooking, and medication management can easily run $5,000 a month or more. That's money you'll be pulling directly from your retirement accounts, accelerating the point at which you exhaust your principal. Worse, these costs tend to increase faster than inflation, meaning every year you wait, the price tag grows. We've seen couples spend hundreds of thousands on care during final chapters, leaving adult children scrambling to cover the gap, or even selling the family home. If you think your emergency fund or insurance premiums will cushion the blow, think again. Without a comprehensive plan specifically for long-term care, that dream retirement home can turn into a debt trap, one that forces you to lean on your children far sooner than you ever imagined. Even with a solid long-term care plan in place, many retirees underestimate the relentless drip, drip, drip of out-of-pocket healthcare expenses that Medicare alone won't cover, and those costs can stealthily chip away at your savings until you're left scrambling for help. Medicare Part A may handle hospital stays, and Part B covers doctor visits, but the deductibles, copays, and limitations on coverage quickly add up. Then there's Part D for prescriptions, which can carry its own donut hole of high-cost drugs, and Medicare Advantage plans that promise all-in-one solutions often come with surprise network restrictions and additional premiums. To fill these gaps, most people turn to Medigap supplemental plans, but those policies are neither cheap nor foolproof. Even a basic Plan G can cost several $100s per month, and if you opt for richer coverage, you could be paying upwards of $300 to $400 each month just to keep your out-of-pocket maximum from ballooning. And that doesn't even include dental, vision, or hearing. services most retirees need, but must pay for entirely on their own. Imagine a routine cataract surgery that Medicare covers at 80%, but leaves you with thousands in balance billing. Or a broken hip that lands you in rehab. Part A pays for 100 days, only if you meet stringent conditions, and Part B kicks in for therapy, but the 20% copay on a 6-week stay can still run into the tens of thousands. And when you factor in rising prescription costs, especially for specialty medications that can exceed $10,000 a year, the gap between what Medicare pays and what you owe becomes an abyss. Many retirees find themselves raiding their emergency fund for routine care, then tapping savings accounts to cover premiums, then finally leaning on their kids to bridge the next shortfall. These aren't one-off expenses, they recur year after year, compounding the drain on your nest egg. And when medical bills mount, the decision to tap your retirement portfolio becomes less about choice and more about necessity, pushing the date you need family support ever closer. But even if you manage to navigate these gaps, the next financial trap may be lurking in your tax code. When you thought taxes would take a holiday in retirement, you didn't count on the stealth double whammy of required minimum distributions and surprise surcharge formulas that can drain your nest egg faster than you realize. As soon as you hit age 73, the IRS steps in and demands you start pulling money out of every tax-deferred account you've built, your traditional IRA, your 401k, maybe even old 403(b)(s) from past employers, whether you need those funds or not. And those forced withdrawals? They're counted as ordinary income. That means each year your taxable income ticks upward simply because the government says so, potentially catapulting you into a higher tax bracket and triggering bigger Medicare Part B and D surcharges 2 years down the line. It's a cascading chain reaction. You pull money to satisfy your RMD, your AGI spikes, IRMA penalties kick in, Medicare premiums climb, and before you know it, you're paying hundreds more per month for basic healthcare coverage. Even worse, missing the deadline on a required distribution isn't a slap on the wrist. It's a penalty of up to 25% of the amount you failed to withdraw, effectively rewarding procrastination with a massive fine. You might think, I'll just leave the money invested until I need it, but the IRS won't hear of it. Those funds must come out. And if you weren't withholding taxes on those withdrawals, welcome to the shock of a year-end tax bill that can rival your worst working day nightmare. It's a textbook example of how a rule designed to ensure the government eventually collects its share can instead punish savers who diligently deferred taxes all their working lives. Suddenly, your carefully accumulated savings become a liability rather than a cushion, forcing you to recalculate your budget, find new deductions, or, worse, lean on your kids to help cover that unexpected tax hit. This trap lurks quietly behind retirement planning seminars and glossy brochures, waiting to force you into a scramble for cash just when you hope to relax. Most retirees assume their fixed income and careful budgeting will keep their finances steady, but even modest inflation can stealthily erode your purchasing power until you're left scrambling for cash you thought you had. Imagine a 3% inflation rate, well below the highs of recent decades, compounding year after year. In 10 years, those same dollars buy almost 25% less. That's not a small shift, it's a quarter of your spending power gone without you realizing it. While Social Security and some pensions include cost of living adjustments, many other retirement income streams, like fixed annuities or bond ladders, don't automatically keep pace. Even well-balanced portfolios can lag if they don't explicitly factor in inflation risks. As prices creep up for groceries, utilities, and even leisure activities, the gap between your expected budget and reality grows wider. You might start dipping into your principal to cover simple day-to-day expenses, groceries, gas, rent, even though your strategy was built around living off the income. That choice accelerates the depletion of your nest egg, moving up the day when you'll need to rely on your children for support. And if you've based your retirement withdrawals on the 4% rule or similar guidelines calibrated for low inflation environments, you could find yourself overspending early, only to face shortages later. Compounding the issue, many retirees assume that conservative allocations guard against inflation, when in fact inflation attacks the real value of bonds and cash just as much as it gnaws at stocks. Without an active plan, like inflation-protected securities, real assets, or dynamic withdrawal strategies, those hidden losses accumulate, inching you closer to financial vulnerability. And when those inflationary leaks combine with rising healthcare costs or tax triggers, the strain on your savings becomes even more unbearable. But recognizing this invisible erosion is only the first step, because when markets turn against you in the early years of retirement, the true danger emerges. The most dangerous threat to your retirement portfolio isn't always a crushing market crash decades in, it's the timing of those ups and downs right at the start. Known as sequence of returns risk, this phenomenon can turn a modest downturn in your first few years of retirement into a catastrophic drain on your savings. Imagine you retire, open your statements, and watch as the market dips by 20% in year one. You still need cash to cover living expenses, so you're forced to sell shares at a loss just to pay bills. As the market recovers in years 2 and 3, you hold fewer shares because you sold into the bottom, meaning you miss out on the rebound. Suddenly, your portfolio's growth is permanently stunted by that initial collapse, and you may never fully recover, even if returns average out over the long term. It's a stealth trap because most people plan withdrawals based on average returns, not on how the sequence of gains and losses affects the math when you're actively drawing down principal. The result? You could deplete your nest egg decades sooner than anticipated, long before you count on needing help. And here's where it ties into dependency on your children. When your own resources falter, you'll turn to family support, rent, groceries, medical bills, sooner than you ever planned. What makes sequence of returns risk so insidious is that it's entirely out of your control. Markets move on their own schedule, not yours. Yet you can mitigate it with strategies like bucket portfolios, dynamic withdrawal plans, or guaranteed income products that provide a cushion during downturns. Without these shields, your dream of a secure, self-funded retirement can crumble on the first market stumble. And when that happens, it isn't just numbers on a statement that suffer. It's your independence, forcing you into situations you worked a lifetime to avoid. Retirement should be the reward for decades of hard work, but without a clear-eyed plan for these 5 hidden money traps, even the most carefully built nest egg can be drained sooner than you'd ever imagine, forcing you to lean on your children for support long before you intended. You've seen how sky-high long-term care bills can vaporize hundreds of thousands in a matter of years, how the gaps in Medicare and supplemental insurance quietly chip away at your savings with surprise deductibles and premiums, and how the IRS's required minimum distributions turn your deferred accounts into taxable income you can't avoid. You've learned that inflation doesn't politely wait for you to adjust your budget, but instead erodes your purchasing power year after year, and that a market downturn at the wrong moment can lock in losses you will never recover from if you have to sell into the low. None of these threats happens with a warning siren. Each one crawls into your retirement plan under the guise of normal expenses or good intentions, and before you know it, the cushion you counted on has thinned to the point where your adult children become your lifeline. But here's the key takeaway. Awareness is the first and most powerful defense. By understanding these pitfalls now, you can build strategies to mitigate them. Whether it's designing a dedicated long-term care fund, layering flexible supplemental coverage, staging your withdrawals to minimize tax shocks, including inflation-hedged assets in your portfolio, or adopting withdrawal rules that protect you from sequence of returns risk. Financial independence in retirement isn't guaranteed by savings alone. It's carved out by proactive planning that anticipates the system's hidden drains. So take a fresh look at your numbers, get the right advice, and put the safeguards in place today. Because the best gift you can give your children is the peace of mind that comes from knowing you'll stay self-sufficient, free to enjoy your retirement on your terms, not theirs.